Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personality, politicians, and perspective. We got 2 out of the 3 P's this morning. We have a personality, we have perspectives. So if you don't mind, I'll do a kudo or two. Would that be all right with you, Mrs. Busby?
Oh, yes.
I have to defer to her.
I'd be proud to hear him.
51% of the show she is.
Just
so
right,
I have to defer. No, seriously, I have a rather serious comment this morning as far as kudos are concerned. The other day I was in the courthouse and I have to go through security there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a state policeman there helping out the gentleman as you go through security. And I can't begin to tell you what it was, but he gave me some little gentlemanly courtesy. And I reached out in appreciation to pat him on the torso as a thank you, you know. And I realized he was wearing a vest. And I thought, as I walked away, I thought, you know, that gentleman and those gentlemen in law enforcement have to put those doggone vests on every day just like we put our socks on. And I know, I don't know this, but I presume they're not real comfortable. And I'm certain that they're not real comfortable in the kind of weather we're enjoying today and have been. So it just occurred to me that we ought to tip our hats in the direction of our law enforcement officers out there on the street every day. Lord knows in Logan County you'd think here in Mayberry we'd be safe, but the real world says that there are nuts out there. Whether they're in Burton View, Beeston, or Broadwell, or Lincoln, you know, there are some nuts out there. And so therefore it's necessary for them to wear that protective gear. And so as you see a policeman or law enforcement, he won't give you a ticket if you tip your hat to him and say, thanks for what you do. I think it's appropriate. So that's...
Well, especially in these times when they're being so maligned and physically accosted because of their occupations.
Well,
know.
Defunding the police, that's the dumbest doggone thing I ever heard of. You know,
so
it isn't like they're making a lot of money on the street to start with. I mean, they don't get the greatest pay in the world. So,
No.
Tip your hat to them, folks.
But holy cow. To defund the police, that is the most harebrained idea I've ever heard. So who do you call then when you're in trouble if you're being accosted?
Governor Cuomo?
Okay, well,
all right,
I'll try to get his number.
If you and I don't introduce our very nice guest and a lovely guest, we're going to be defunded up here.
Oh, Jim wouldn't do that.
So I think we ought to get on with business and introduce our very nice guest this morning.
Well, yes, by way of a friendship with Bill here.
Yes,
because she lives...
I just do what she says.
She works where Bill lives, and that is at the Christian Homes. And Judy King is the Director of Independent Living Services. And
Lord knows we're independent.
Yes. Yes.
You need a lot of services.
Well, and it can mean a lot of different things. You know, I think when we think of the whole Christian village, we think of people that are beyond, I don't know how, I'm trying to
Careful
be delicate here.
I'm sitting next
This
to
is
her.
a very big job.
I'm with an elbow jab of her.
The people who are like bedfast.
Well, sure, you tend to think of the nursing center instead of retirement living.
And if
we're active out there. I shouldn't tell you how active we are.
Well, I know Bill goes to a tea party every Tuesday and Thursday at the gazebo that he looks forward to, don't you, Bill?
Yes.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And he lives in one of those brick double bungalows out there.
They're
and
called duplexes, Mrs. Busby.
We called them double bungalows where I come from. Either way, they are very nice, very nice. And that's part of your domain out there too.
It is.
And those people are coming and going lickety-cut, so
Yes.
they're hardly what we used to think of as people in the nursing home.
Oh no.
Well, we'd like to think they're not going as fast as they come.
Well,
Some of us are kind of set in our ways out there, and they're not quite ready to leave yet.
yeah, well, I guess.
Yeah, seeing to Bill's needs is kind of like nailing Jell-O to a tree.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Now, you've been working with the Christian Village for a long time, haven't you?
I started when I was 5 years old because I've been there 25 years.
Well, gosh. Child labor. I think
Isn't
they
it
have
awful?
some laws about that now.
Before we bring Julie on, I want to. Can I do two? May I do two code? You notice I know the difference between may and can.
Yes, you did.
I want you to know that. I wanted to call that to your attention.
Caught yourself there pretty quick, yeah.
May I have another kudo? And that would be for our guest this morning. And I'm serious about this. I'm not being facetious at all. Julie has a tough job to do out there, and she does it very well. Number one, she has a board that she has to answer to, and that may not be the easiest thing in the world because they may pass down edicts that don't go very well on her campus. And then she has to try to placate all of us that are out there, and she does a whale of a job. And I'm being serious about this. I'm not stroking her. I just take my hat off to her because Gene and I think she does a great job for us out there. So you make a great director of assisted living, my dear.
Well, shoot. Now you made me blush, and nobody can see that on the radio.
We'll have to see if Jim can arrange a TV camera for you the next time you come.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of those, now you're calling them?
We have 22 single unit duplexes.
Uh-huh.
So 11 duplexes if you're counting them as a set. And then
They come as a set.
They come as a set, yes. It's kind of like shoes. You don't want to buy just the one. And then there are 16 cottages and 26 apartments in what we called the congregate building, but the senior apartment building.
How many people do you have that live there, the residents?
Currently, I have about 76 people.
Is that right?
So I have 64 units, but there's a lot of couples that
Boy,
live
and
there.
when they get together at night in the quadrangle, that's hell to pay.
Say, what happens after I go home for at the end of the day is on you.
Oh, dear. Oh,
I don't check up on them. I just make sure everything's well lit so they don't fall.
That's probably a wise decision.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to talk about this COVID business now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The staff, Christian Village, the Christian homes in particular, and it filters down to the individual campuses. They've done a yeoman's job in trying to keep up with what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
We have some things we don't particularly like, but that's too bad. These things that they're asking us to do and not to do are very, very important. And Lord knows we're dealing with an elderly group out there, except for one of them. And we have to, they're just doing a good job in trying to manage this COVID crisis. And I think we're all pretty well satisfied, Mrs. King, the way things are going out there.
I appreciate that. And since we're doing shout outs and kudos, I want to do a reverse to all of the residents that live out there, especially in the independent living, because that's my domain. That's who I see on a daily basis. You all were asked to do a lot of different things, and I didn't hear much in the way of complaint or anyone resisting doing what we were asking, which was the mask and the social distancing and please don't let anyone in your home, and those are all hard things. And yet this generation, that population, embraced it because they understood it was necessary, with very little complaint. People asking, well, what else can we do? Are we doing this right? And not because they were just mindless sheep, as some people would suggest. If you wear a mask, that just means you're being manipulated and controlled. You did it because you understood it was one of the ways we had to make sure you stayed safe.
Well, I'm going to use the big S word. It's stupid.
Oh.
To fly in the face of these people who are experts, who say, and especially in a relatively confined population,
yes,
that this is a very important thing that you can do for yourself to keep the population safe. You wearing the mask doesn't keep you from being exposed, but it keeps you from exposing others. And your population out there is the generation that was capable of thinking of the others. It wasn't all about number one, me.
Well, there was some benefit to growing up during the Depression and World War II and rationing and all of those other things. Those were the really hard things that you were asked to do, and people did them because they understood that it was for the greater good. But it's different this time around because we have an enemy we can't see. I can't look around my campus and go, oh, it's over there. Everybody stay away from there.
Yeah.
We have to just assume that it's everywhere and everyone. And I will go to my death trying to protect the people that live out there. It's that important to me.
And your population is the one that gets so terribly affected by this germ.
Well, as we age, I hate to say that, but as we age, our immune system is not as strong as it used to be. And the body's fight response to fight off something isn't as strong as
we got more flight than fight, are you saying?
Yes, and we run a lot slower now.
Darn right.
Yep, but with purpose.
Other than trying to placate a bunch of old people daily, what is your toughest job out there, Mrs. King?
That's an interesting question.
Well, there's so many things going on daily
There
out
are.
there. You know, somebody
would
called
say-
you and said, my gutter leaks. Well, so somebody's going to have to take care of that. Or my refrigerator's not working. That's a major story.
Yes.
You can get along without your gutter, but not without your refrigerator. But there are things that pop up daily in your office that you hadn't even thought of.
This is true. I mean, it's part of what keeps the job interesting. I am blessed with a small and very capable, wonderful staff of work associates. I have one maintenance man, and Anthony can do almost anything I ask him to do. And then I have...
And cheerfully,
Cheerfully, absolutely.
which is important.
My little housekeeper has a background in as a nurse's aide and an EMT, so she doesn't want to do that line of work anymore, so she's my housekeeper. But by golly, if I have somebody that misses a chair and sits on the floor, I just give her a shout and she comes and we help them up, and we're good to go. So
Well, she's kind of a twofer almost.
she
isn't
is.
she?
She is. And delightful, and has just the sweetest spirit. She wants to help people all the time. And then I have my cooks and a young man who just came on as our lifestyle activities person at the worst time possible because we can't schedule any activities. So he's still finding ways to keep people engaged and but follow all the rules at the CDC and the IDPH, which is the Illinois Department of the health, that tells us we have to do, and he still makes it work every day. So
Let's talk about his role. How in the world do you make that kind of role work today?
a lot of individual activities or leaving things that people can get their hands on and just encouraging people to do something. For instance, yoga stretching. We'll just put the video in, and if somebody wants to come down and get some exercise, they can do that individually so that they are staying safe from each other and so forth. And now that the weather has gotten good, being able to go outside, there's a lot of things.
Why are you saying the weather is good? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it sucks.
Well, it's not raining and it's not snowing and too cold to go outside. So that, to me, that's good. And we have the gazebo and it's got a fan. And the Marines, Bill Dennis, what is that group, Bill?
Oh, Marine Corps League.
Thank you. The Marine Corps League came about a month ago and put in a horseshoe pitch for us.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I bet that's
Yeah.
popular.
So, and I talk about socially distanced. You stay over there, and I'll stay over here, and I'm going to throw things
You
at you.
talk about 6 feet difference, yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to wear a mask or anything, but you can go out and pitch horseshoes.
The Marine Corps League has done, they've kind of taken us under their wing, so to speak, particularly in reference to matters of our flag and so forth. If we have a flag problem on a building or a flagpole's down due to the wind or something, Mr. Dennis and the Marine Corps League step up and swing a bat and it's done. We never worry about it. We just assume that that's going to get taken care of. And so while we're tipping hats with kudos, let's just tip one in the direction of the Marine Corps League and those fellows who do a lot to help us out. The gazebo, even in this hot, humid day, is doable. And it's a nice place to sit around and have a cup of coffee. But there again, Judith, that means somebody has to wheel out a cart full of coffee and the cups and so forth. So it's an extra step. It's that old song, it's little things mean a lot.
Yep.
And that's one of the little things that adds up to meaning a lot for those of us who live out there. So thank you for that.
Well, and that's such an obviously beautiful idea for that population, because being alone is a terrible thing as the years go by. And I'm sure that they all think about, boy, I'd hate to be alone, so God love him for having a coffee cart.
Yes. Yeah, and that's part of what Martin does. He'll get it ready, and then one of the either Joe or somebody will come in the building at the end door where.
Yeah, Joe's awful good about that. Yeah.
And we'll hand the cart off to them, and off they go. So.
You had some stories that you were going to try to recount a little bit. I give you a few seconds to kind of research those, because we're going to kind of make this a lighter morning than a heavy morning. So we'll defer to Mr. Ash and his commercials right now. I'll give you a chance to kind of check into your background material.
All right.
And right back live in the studio here, interviewing this morning the lovely lady, Mrs. Judy King, who is Director of Assisted Living at Lincoln Christian Village, and doing a whale of a job for us. We were talking about making things a little bit lighter today, and I'm going to retell a story of one of our inmates. Oh, I mean, one of our residents. One of our residents out there.
Oh dear.
To kind of get things lightened up here this morning. The boys, the inmates, get together on Tuesdays and Thursdays and have coffee together. And the gentleman of whom I speak today is 100 years old now, so this was when he was 99 years old.
He's just a young pup.
Just a
You're
babe.
just a kid, yeah, right. And the gentleman's very hard of hearing. And I kind of felt badly about him being out of the loop, so to speak, and I would kind of make it a point to sit next to him and kind of fill him in on what the boys were talking about. So one day I sit down, they're talking politics today. There's a few seconds pause, and he says, well, there's two things you don't need to know about me, my politics, my sex life. And I thought at 99, that's a pretty good outlook on life.
Good answer.
So we have a little fun out there as well.
Yeah.
The congregate building, you've had to close that off now to
Yes.
everybody except those folks who live there, which is, again, the right thing to do. Lord knows we wouldn't want to get it started there and then have it go all over campus, and that's exactly what could happen if you weren't using these measures. But that's worked out all right for us.
It has. It has. Our meal planning changed, or our meal delivery system
Yes,
changed,
that's another
because
story.
we had folks that come into the congregate building to have their lunch. So now we start our lunch a little early, and everyone that would normally come in, we do to-go packets, and then I have a cart, and I go to each of the apartments and I deliver their meals. But that's a good thing too, because then that gives me eyes on. I can see how people are doing, because Judy, you mentioned that we're not meant to be alone.
Right.
And we're not. I mean, we are created social creatures. So it's a good opportunity for me to make sure that everybody still has all their wheels on the wagon, and they're doing okay. And then we have 12 people in our dining room downstairs, 6 feet apart. The tables are oval, and there's 6 feet from end to end. So it's like Lord and Lady Grantham. You know, we got a Downton Abbey here, and we have them away from each other, and then I had to tape measure and make sure, okay, now this person's 6 feet from that person, and this person is 6 feet from that person. But we make it happen. And then we have a smaller group upstairs that eats, and then a handful that eat in their room. So it's
But there again,
quite interesting.
in and of itself, that adds an extra burden to your staff. It takes a lot of extra work to serve people upstairs. Or, for that matter, just take them down to the hall to their rooms when they're used to coming to the dining room to eat. Then also, Judith K., for those who want to stay in their duplexes and want to eat with the fare at the congregate building, they'll deliver their meals to them at the duplexes.
Sure.
They go all out to do what they can to make it easier, make life a lot easier for you.
Well, there's a statistic that said the number one cause of injury resulting from an accident, is due to a loss of flexibility. And so I tend to think about that as in every aspect of life. The more inflexible you become, the more likely you are to get hurt. So
You know, that makes
you just
perfect
have
sense.
to play the cards you're dealt and make it work. And so we looked at the cards we were dealt and we made it work. You just have to.
You know, as you're talking about the business of being alone, I'm kind of comparing it in my mind to the kids. My great-grandson is going into 2nd grade, and he goes to West Lincoln Broadwell here in the big city of Lincoln, America, and I worry about him and all the other little people who are his age. And it's the same story where you are at the Christian Village, because a big part of your life has to be the interaction with other people. In Liam's case, it would be learning to interface and interact with different kinds of people. You're not just with your mom and your grandma.
Right.
You know, and with your people, they've learned that skill, and now they have to use it. And it's very important to them that they do use it. If you cut yourself off from others, you're missing an awfully big portion of life.
I will tell you one thing that we have over on the nursing side of it, because they are really restricted.
Yeah.
They built a conversation station, and it's 3 large pieces of plexiglass. And it's 3-sided, and so family sits on one side and the resident can sit on the other side, and they can see each other and they can talk to each other. And it has just been amazing, the impact that has
smart.
had.
That is so
Where'd that idea
smart.
come out of St. Louis? Did it? Well, somebody's thinking outside
Yeah.
the box.
So it's hinged, and we have it all set up, and then there's a little speaker system, so that if you have someone that is hard of hearing, of course you've got this plexiglass in between, it's difficult, you know, but you don't have to wear the mask, so you can read lips a little bit, but we have the amplification for it now, so that you can actually hear each other.
Could Gene and I apply to get one of those in our living room?
Oh, I'd be happy to build it for you.
That's about the way things go every day anyway.
Well, this has brought you a whole new set of circumstances.
It has. It has. My favorite thing to say, truthfully, is seat of the pants airlines. Fly with me.
Yes, yes.
Our uniforms have big patches on the.
Really? That must be the truth.
Yeah.
By the way, as a serious matter, the home also, the administration passes out, and they make sure everybody gets one, the standings on this COVID business.
Mm-hmm.
And currently we're doing quite well out there,
We
aren't
are doing very well. We are. I can tell you, I've been tested 3 times now, and it's not pleasant. But it's necessary. I mean, it's not horrible. It's just you feel like you have a blowfly up your nose because they have to take this really small swab and they go clear to the back of your sinus, and then for 15 seconds
I
they
didn't know you
swab.
could get there from here.
Yeah. You always thought this was an exit only, didn't you? Apparently it's an entrance as well. But you go up to the back of the sinus and it touches the very back, and then for 15 seconds this thing is bobbing around in there, getting a sample. So you have to be very still and let them shove a little straw up your nose. So, but it's very accurate and it's necessary. So again, it goes back to you do what you have to do.
In this awful pandemic that we're all suffering from, I say hats off to you and all the people in like positions, and I include definitely the people out at both prisons, because you have this confined population, and it would be so easy for it to come into the building and get a foothold and Katie bar the door.
Yep.
So hats off to you for all of the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you.
Somebody
It's a group
has
effort.
to daily get, we get these directives from the National Health Organization and so forth, and suggestions and or orders, as the case may be, and I don't know how the orders fit in, but in any event, somebody has to monitor that daily and make judgments as to what to pass on to the various. We have how many campuses in the nursing Christian Village? We have.
Do you mean just on our?
No, I mean.
But the corporation-wide.
Yes.
Christian Horizons, I believe we have 14 communities.
Yeah,
I think.
There's a lot of responsibility there.
In
yes.
4
Because,
states.
Yeah,
So we have Iowa, Indiana, Missouri, and Illinois.
And we have one over Decatur, one down Springfield, and others.
Washington. We have
what's
a
the
supportive
out there?
living in Washington.
And Neoga, we have one down there, or did have.
Did have.
Yeah.
You were going to tell us some of the entertaining things that made you snicker at work. I'd like to hear them.
Well, this one didn't happen at work. Actually, Bill and I were talking about what I might talk about today, and through all of this is a perfect segue. With all of the serious things that we have to deal with on a daily basis, there's actual benefits, physiological and psychological benefits to humor, to laughter. And so I am naturally drawn towards things that make me laugh. And so I will tell on myself to the when we get together for whatever reason. I will tell a story on myself because I don't care. I mean, I've been embarrassed before, I'll be embarrassed again. So this was the one I was going to share with Bill this morning. Out of Cracker Barrel, they have, as you come in, they have the gift shop, and then, of course, the rest of the restaurant. And they play that good old-timey Southern, country music. And so my husband, Barry, and I went to Cracker Barrel, and we got ourselves situated, and I excused myself to use the restroom for, basic reasons that people go. And they were playing this good old-timey Tammy Wynette song, and I'm just singing along with her, I was just singing. I got into the restroom, and the music stopped. So it was getting ready to start the next song. Well, I got myself in the stall and just ready to sit down, and I hear this voice, "Hello, darling. Nice to see ya." And then Conway Twitty decided to sing to me while I was in the bathroom. But I heard this voice and I just shot up. Like I'd been shot out of a cannon.
Oh my goodness.
We don't have those out there at the home.
No.
Oh my.
So,
Our kitchen staff
Yes.
out there, the culinary staff, get you to use big words here.
You're upgrading it. Yeah.
yes.
Well, they do a fine job for us. There's a lot of planning goes in there. They just don't get up on Tuesday morning and say, well, tomorrow we're going to do so-and-so.
Rifle through the refrigerator and say,
Yeah, they don't clean the refrigerator
what can
out.
I do with this?
A lot of advanced planning, and I think John and his staff do a very nice job for us.
Yep.
Now, we don't eat at the congregate. My wife thinks they're all too old. No, seriously. When we did eat there, and I thought it was food with bread, and I said, well, that went very well, so I can't do that anymore. And I asked why, and she said, well, it's all the doggone, the canes and the crutches and the walkers, and that kind of got to her a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the day may come, you know.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, all of those adaptive devices, that's why they call them, you know, so you adapt to your needs. All of those things are what help you keep you independent. I
Yes.
mean, that's the whole point, is there are some places that if you need a wheelchair, you don't get to live there anymore. We don't play that game. If that wheelchair or that electric scooter is what's keeping you independent and adding quality days to your life, keep on going. So
that's why I don't
that's our goal, is to help people age in place as much as they can.
That must be a constant thought on your minds, is to keep a quality of life.
Yes.
As
And frankly, I don't think I'm being prejudiced in this, but I think on balance, Mrs. King, we see people with a determined attitude as far as having a good quality of life out there. We don't see many poor me's.
Not too many.
I just don't see that on that campus. These folks, your residents, are upbeat, and part of that comes from what the village tries to do for us and keeping us comfortable not only physically but mentally.
Keeping
And I
you
think
sharp.
that's very important.
We have to blow the dust off every so often. Use those gray cells. Yeah, and that's one of the things that circles back to Martin. He's been leaving word games and puzzles and different things that would stimulate the mind. If you can't be there to share a laugh with somebody, then he'll deliver jokes so that people can read them and or you know, look at the cartoon and get a laugh out of it.
yes.
And I think it takes a kind of a special calling to work with older people, especially a young man like Martin. He's young, in his early 20s,
Yeah.
very early 20s.
Yeah, I've got shoes older than him, I'm pretty sure.
And he's quite good in working with the old folks.
He is
out
very
there.
good. He is very good.
And he seems to enjoy his job. He doesn't act like it's a burden to him,
No, not at all.
which is important
Yes.
because some older people, I don't think I'll ever get there, hopefully not. I don't know. But some older people seem put upon once in a while. Poor me and something. That's just nature. It's human nature.
Well, sure.
He goes along with that program pretty well.
He does. He does. He's able to, he has an ability that, regardless of his age, a lot of people never attain, and that's to be able to see past what's being presented to him to the reason behind it. So he'll look for, if somebody's grumping at him, he will go past the grump to the root cause of it. You know, are you in pain? You know, have you had a loss? Those kinds of things. He might not ask that person that, but he'll come in and ask me. And to get more background so he can better understand the person that's in front of him. And I really appreciate that about him.
These facilities, excuse me, go right ahead, please.
Maybe he was lucky like I was, and had a beautiful relationship with his grandparents.
Yeah, his grandparents are
and
still
great
alive.
aunts and uncles, And so he realizes that just because these people have added more candles on their cake than he has, they're still people. And they still like to interact with other people. And if you can just see beyond yourself and your age to the fact that you too could end up being 80 or whatever, you know.
One of the other tricks to aging gracefully and living longer and living well while you live longer is to make sure that you have friends of all ages. Don't just keep that friends of your peers, just your peers, because as you age, those friends will die off. But if you have made it a lifetime habit to have friends in their teens, I have kids that are still in high school that I call my friends. I definitely consider them my friends. And then you have people who are a little bit older than you and people who are younger than you, and then you have your group that's your peers that are the same age as you. So no matter what happens in life, you still have friends. They haven't just all gone, gotten sick, moved away, all of those things.
You must spread that word, because I'm afraid we have people now who have a very difficult time seeing beyond number one. It's all about me. You know, I don't give a toot how that affects you or you.
I put up that every week with you in the car.
And rightfully so.
By the way,
leave him alone for a week and he gets all feisty.
I know.
by the way, Mrs. Busby, once again, here we are almost at the end of the show, and you and I both are very remiss in not using the 648-5510.
It's because I can't remember the number.
Somebody might have a question of Mrs. King.
Or a joke.
Or a joke. Yeah, just keep it clean, that's all. Or a comment or two. So if anybody would like to talk with Mrs. King, now's your chance. 648-5510. Both of you out there, get on the phone. Directives that come from the bureaucrats. Do those go through the corporate office and then down to you, or do they come directly to the various institutions?
If you're talking about like the regulations,
Yes.
in our current climate, our COVID culture that we're living through right now, it starts with the CDC and the health department's recommendations, then corporate, then our executive directors, or the heads of each of the campuses, then down to the managers. So it does follow chain of command, but it comes from information. Sometimes it will start with our corporate office, but we have experts in every aspect of this industry in our corporate level. So they're the ones watching the trends and looking at what the CDC is saying and what the Department of Health is saying, and then formulating the policies that we then will follow campus-wide. So it does work its way down from experts to the people who have to execute it. So.
Institution-wise, I hate to use that word institution, but nonetheless, that's what it is. Institution-wise, it seems to me that the Christian Horizons have done a good job in all of their facilities in relationship to this COVID-19 business. They've been on top of it, been very good about making sure that we on campuses know what's going on our particular campus. So we feel better about walking around our campus.
Right. The big thing is to keep you informed, so you do know what's going on. You're not kept in the dark. And then to let you know how you can help us make that happen. It's far easier to realize the dream, to get the mandate to happen and to work, if everybody's on the same page and everybody's on board as much as they can be. There's all sorts of theories.
There's no alternative. If the CDC decides this is how it is, that's the truth.
Right.
This is how it is.
And then you make it work.
We're down to just a couple of 3 minutes here left. Mrs. King, do you have anything you'd like to say on behalf of those of us who are inmates, residents at the Christian Village. Again, I've done a lot of saying some nice things about there, but that's because we're happy campers. We're not sitting off in the corner grumbling somewhere. So, would you like to conclude with a comment or two about the village and what we do out there?
I would. As a matter of fact, I really would. I have had all sorts of occupations. Some of them were jobs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
You went to work, you did your hours, you got paid, you came home, you paid your bills. But when you get to get up and go to work every day to a place that's not work, that you look forward to going to because of the people that you know you're going to be with, that's what I get every day. And so I come in at 7, I leave sometimes by 5 if I'm lucky. 9-10 hours a day of enjoying the company of amazing people and learning from them every single day and getting paid to do it. I can't think of anything better that a person could have in their life than that.
Bless your heart.
Thank you very much. Julie King, Director of Assisted Living at the Lincoln Christian Village. It's a lovely campus on the west side of town. How about your occupancies right here? Are you pretty full up?
We have a couple of apartments in the senior apartment building that are available right now, but because of the quarantining
COVID,
and
yeah,
everything, I've not been able to go out and tell people about that. But there's some beautiful one-bedroom apartments there in the Congregate building. If anybody has a need, just give me a shout. We have one unit that we keep furnished, and we call it Almost Home. And Almost Home is for someone who perhaps got out of the hospital, but they don't feel quite ready to go home because there's nobody there to help them. So it has a day rate, and you can come 3 meals a day, housekeeping, laundry.
Thank you, Julie, for giving us your time today. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're a busy schedule. We'll close Viewpoint again with, I like to always close with, be the reason somebody smiles today. Thank you for Viewpoint. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.